All right. Hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like on the video if you have not already. Subscribe if you haven't. I just want to talk about the Wuthering Waves ecosystem. Now, the Wuthering Waves ecosystem, oh my goodness, Wuthering Waves ecosystem is something that is going to be very controversial once the game actually does come out. It's still in a progress, right? We are still in closed beta test 2, so these are just closed beta test 2 thoughts. And man, do I love the skybox in this game. It looks beautiful. But the ecosystem is basically like the gearing system in this game, or like the artifact system within Genshin. But the issue really comes down to just how the game essentially works with stat lining and the certain subsets that you are able to get. It's not really as, the grass isn't as green as some people may make it seem just because you're able to farm it. But there are a lot of things to it that could make it better. Now, TLDR, just to get this out of the way, is the system better than Genshin? No. The system is just as bad as Genshin, if not a little bit worse when it comes to the free-to-play side of things. So, let us get into this now. Now, the reason why echoes aren't really as good as they could be is mostly due to the stat lighting. As we know, or if you don't know, in Genshin, when you do ascend your characters, right, they will get different stat lining. So they can have stat lining like crit rate, crit damage, increase, and stuff like that, right? So it helps you, or energy recharge, stuff like that, can really help you end up gearing your characters the way that you want. The issue with when it comes to Wuthering Waves is that you do not get any ascension stats. All you get is basic HP, attack, and defense. Which makes me believe, leaning towards this game, it more has to do with just basic attack rather than going for crit. Now, obviously, is crit rate nice to have? Yes, you have 150% crit damage base. So obviously you want to build your characters with crit rate to take advantage of that, but it's not as easy as it could be. So when it comes to weapons that are in the game, I haven't seen any free-to-play weapons that have crit rate. Not even on the battle pass is there something that has a crit rate option. If we actually go into the battle pass and check out the weapons, all we really have is the sword that has crit rate. Or that's not even a sword, that's a claymore, right? Or a heavy sword, right? So I actually don't even use this stat, but not even the basic sword. There's no crit rate on it. And these aren't crit rate, even main stat, right? It's a substat. So it doesn't really feel that good to have. And it's not easy because generally in games that you are playing, you want to get your crit rate above 50% to at least have, that 50-50 chance of actually being able to crit an enemy. Because obviously you want to utilize crit rate, because usually crit rate in every single game that you do play, they have extremely good value. And I think the reason that they made echoes not as easy to build is because you're able to farm them unlimited in like just the overworld. So going to echoes, every echo, they have the main stat, then the substat, and then they have multiple substats here. So I think there is an actual, is there a actual description here for it? Well, there's the main stat and then the secondary stat, and then you have the substats here. Now there are a lot of substats in this game. I could look through it in the filter, but the filter does not have every single substat that's in the game. I think it is here, right? So they have the main stat and the substat. So this is just showing the main stat that you can get for every single echo, and then the secondary stat. That's basically the substat. The substat isn't this line. The substat is this line. So it's the main stat, and I call this a secondary stat, and then I call these the substats. Now, if you don't want to call it the substats, to break any confusion, they're really called the tuning stats, because when you actually get an echo, uh to +5 every level. There's a tuning stat. And I actually did not know this, that legendary echoes have 25. I I didn't even know that, to be honest, because I've been using the elite echoes, because elite echoes are the +20. So you can have 5 different substats on an echo, which is insane. But the issue is that there are so many substats when it comes to this game. There is attack flattened a percent, defense flattened percent. There's resonance damage bonus. There's resonance skill damage bonus. There's energy recharge. HP. I think there's HP percent as well. Yeah, there is crit rate percent, basic attack damage, crit damage. And the thing is, there's a low roll and a high roll percentage. It's not a set percentage. So you have to RNG farm for the high roll or the low roll, or try to get at least mid rolls. Now, luckily for Wuthering Waves, it's more of a skill issue kind of game. So you don't absolutely need to have the best gear on your character, but it's nice to have the option to be able to have the best gear on your character, but it's not easy. And you are forced to go certain sets if you would like to have, more crit rate. I think even like a lot of people that have been grinding, they don't even have over 50% crit rate yet. They have about like 30% crit rate, maybe even 40. So it's not the easiest thing in the world. And I think this has to do with the weapon banner, actually. I think this is why they made weapon banner actually 100% chance to actually get the weapon, because the weapon banner gives you crit stats depending on what you get. And I think this game is going to revolve more around weapons than the character themselves, because if you're able to actually stat check a weapon, if you're able to stat check a character off weapons, I think that's very much better. As you can see here, some of these weapons have crit rate, and it's just more optimal to go for a weapon that has crit rate to actually help you build your stats. Now, hopefully in the future, they're able to fix that to where you can actually ascend and get crit rate and crit damage to help you actually gear your characters. Now, the other thing about Echo is that there is a the thing about Echo is that we have these Echo, basically like Echo farming things that you can do. And I thought maybe what happens is that when you guys want to actually farm your data book, right? I thought that maybe you can actually farm these echo fields to then get echoes that you could possibly be missing, but no. These echo fields have the same exact echoes every single time. It's a set, same amount of echoes. There's no different echoes that you could possibly get. So if you're trying to farm your data book for certain echoes, you cannot farm these to unlock those echoes to then farm them. They're the same echoes every single time. And this costs 60 stamina. Imagine spending 60 stamina and getting 2 blues. That doesn't feel good. And even when you're a higher rarity, right? It still doesn't feel good to spend 60 stamina on something, even if you get a legendary, because all you have to do is that luckily they made it to where you could just farm echoes and overroll that you don't need to spend stamina for it. So it doesn't feel good to spend for echoes. And it's 5 substat lining. They have to get the main stat right. And then for the substats, you want to make sure they're max rolled. So it's a lot of, RNG when it comes to it. And is it as bad as Genshin? People can make that argument that it could be worse or it could not as be worse, but it's definitely as bad. You can't lie and say that it's not as bad. I think Wuthering Waves combat is great. Bosses are great. Gear, though, needs to be, hot fixed. Something needs to be hot fixed. A lot of the systems need to be hot fixed. A lot of quality of life fixes. But I do believe if they're able to actually add some ascension stats when it comes to crit damage, it will really help out building characters. And I think actually as well. When we actually do end up getting ascension stats, say we get energy regen or something like that, it would also help players know how to actually build their characters. Because to be honest, I haven't really seen any other characters not want to build crit rate. There's hasn't really been any focus for characters like, oh, energy regen, you want to use a character this way. It's this game has really just been about damage. Obviously, there are some healers and stuff like that, but um, it having ascension stats helps people actually learn how to build characters that maybe don't want to look it up or maybe just don't know how to build said characters. So hopefully in the future they're able to do something like that. I mean, you can also get crit rate from here, but it's not a lot. And the amount doesn't increase. So let's see. We have 280, 280. Off the top of my head, that's 560. And then we have 120. This is nothing. This is literally nothing. So it's what, 7% crit rate that you get, but you're at rank 3. Like, cool, 7% crit rate. So I get 30% crit rate. So I think for Wuthering Waves, it's not going to be easy to get your crit rate up. And I think you actually can't get somewhere like between 60, 70, 80% crit rate unless you actually have gear that has crit rate and you actually roll a high roll crit rate on every echo that you get. Now, some people, don't want to grind games. They're like, oh, like, why would I play this game? We have to grind and things like that. I think the only reason why it cannot be as bad is because you're able to farm echoes infinitely. But that doesn't mean the system itself is better. It's still bad when it comes to RNG just because how many stat lines there is. And sure, I could just be like, hey, just get crit rate. Again, there's like 12 different uh there's 12 different upgrades that you could possibly get out of here. So, and then you want to min roll or you want to min roll or max roll them. So obviously, no one's gonna go out of their way to do something like that because it is a beta test, so it's not really worth the time. But when a game does come out, hopefully these changes are fixed when it comes to the ecosystem. Now, I'm pretty sure that's all I really want to say about the ecosystem. I just don't believe that it's really like that good when it comes to stat lining. And to be honest, it's not really as better than the artifact system. Again, it's just as bad. And even when you spend money, say like a pay to win person spends money on maybe like the overworld farming, I don't think it's gonna be as good. Maybe it could be a lot better, right? Once we get the world levels up, because I believe the max world level is at level 80. So maybe then it's worth it, but that's obviously too far, too far ahead. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope you guys have a good one.